Good evening and welcome to the September 11th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast by FCTV on cable channel 9. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. We're missing one commissioner tonight. However, we have a quorum plus. We're moving forward. Just a reminder for commenting, I'll call on each of you in turn so we're not tripping over each other, and that all votes have to be done by roll call. So when I call your name, please state your name and your vote for the record, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public attendees, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to participate in a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the meeting, the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the Commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. A positive determination means the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply and/or may require some conditions. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you actually want us here say something negative. For the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued. 103 Shorewood Drive, 30 Marshview Drive, 41/0 Beckles Lane, and number 4 Whittemore. With that behind us, first up is the vote minutes, August 21st, 2024. Anyone?
Chairman, I reviewed the minutes. I move approval as written. I do have a question.
Bird second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept these minutes. Betsy.
Didn't Steve say he had a question?
I'm sorry.
Sorry. I was trying to think how it
My
worked.
fault.
In the minutes, when we actually vote an item, there's never any comments. It's just the vote. And sometimes, I don't know. I've just been looking at it and thinking.
What comment are you looking for? I'm not sure I'm following.
Sometimes we have a discussion, when we're issuing, when we're issuing an order of conditions, and it's rarely discussed. But that's fine. I just wanted to comment on that.
Okay.
So if you look at the minutes.
Yeah, I can't say I picked up on that, though. I'll double check that, and we'll be more diligent.
I'm not sure it's necessary. I'm just commenting on it.
Yeah.
We achieve our goals. We issue an order of conditions. One time, Betsy commented that got through on some reason, but that's all over the last month or so.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments that I missed? All right. We're voting to accept the minutes of 8/21. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Hello, Hawks aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of 8/21 as submitted. Next up is the vote minutes of August 28th, 2024.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes of 8/28.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of 8/28 as submitted. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept the minutes. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of August 28th as submitted. Thank you, Kristen. Next up, our request for continuance for determination of applicability. First up, Samantha and David O'Neill, 103 Shorewood Drive, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct an existing deck and construct a rent station. Alyssa,
The applicant has requested a continuance until September 25th.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to continue this RDA until 9:25. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this RDA until 9:25. Next up, Eileen Meany, 30 Marshview Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to repair the existing deck, platform, and railings, and to reconstruct the stairs in accordance with the state building code. Alyssa,
We were able to speak with the engineer today and we'll be proceeding with this one tonight.
all righty. Moving on, request for continuance under notice of intent. First request, John Rosenfeld, 41 Beckles Road and 0 Beckles Road, map and parcel ID 36-06-000-007, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling with a patio and attached garage, construct a carriage house, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system, and install mitigation plantings. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Alyssa, I don't seem to have this one in my packet.
The applicant has requested continuance until September 25th.
Thank you.
So moved. Gladfelter,
Bird, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 9:25. Questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this notice until 9:25. Next, Michael Smith and Yvonne Chung, 4 Whittemore Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to upgrade an existing sewage disposal system, construct a second floor addition, and install restoration plantings. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until 9:25.
Gladfelter, so moved.
Bird, second. Is that gonna be a full night?
You've got one new notice, and this will be, that makes 3 continued, so,
Okay,
and 2 amended, so you're not too bad.
all right. Do I need
all
a
right,
second?
yep, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 9:25. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 9:25. Next up are requests for determination of applicability. First one had been previously continued. Which brings us to Leonard Remia, 11 Avenue A, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install a fence with gates, construct a dormer, and install additional footings, and for after-the-fact permission to install cobble aprons in the patio, maintain 2 driveways, construct a 3-foot by 8-foot addition, and install a walkway and a stoop. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
all right, we have a motion and competition for the second. to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve. Steve, you're muted. Or give me a thumbs up.
Pat and I.
Thank you. It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Bonnie W. Simon, 138 and 144 Gardner Road, Woods Hole, Mass. For permission to install mitigation and restoration plantings in accordance with Mass DEP number 25-4512. Jen, I'm sorry, Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
O'Brien, second.
All right, my question is, why isn't this a notice? Can you
We typically
elaborate?
see, yeah, so we have evaluated this property for compliance. They do have a couple areas of dead mitigation, a couple trees that are missing, and so they need a mechanism, a valid permit to restore these and to install them in jurisdiction. This is also in coordination with your upcoming NOI tonight, 122 Gardner. The homeowners will be doing some property line changes and they need to have a clear title for that. But we typically see plantings to be reinstalled in accordance with old orders under RDAs. You have a second one tonight for 36C Alder, same concept.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Claudette Rotino, 356 Shorewood Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove a failed cesspool and to install a new Title V sewage disposal system. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project solely takes place in an AE flood zone.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Stephen and Lorraine Barilaro, 36C Alder Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a garage and install mitigation plantings in accordance with Mass DEP number 25-4636. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments?
This is
Amy, in
a sort of
this case-
cleanup operation.
Yes, they had several delays during the
Yeah.
life of the order, so they're kind of just finishing up the project.
Okay.
And I might add that the garage, the original project was for an addition and a garage. They constructed the addition. We will not sign off on the building permit for the garage until the plantings are installed.
Yep.
Good.
Good.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, continued requests for determination of applicability. First up is Eileen Meany, 30 Marshview Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to repair the existing deck, platform, and railings and to reconstruct the stairs in accordance with state building code. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, Steve?
I thought this was a very pragmatic decision. I appreciated it. Thank you.
Love those staff reports.
Mhm.
All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Fellow Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Arthur M. Hawks, 641 West Falmouth Highway, West Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a pool and construct a garage. And Alyssa, I'm sorry.
No worries. The applicant has withdrawn their request.
All righty then. Guess they don't like us. All right, next up. Jeff Bright, 94 Portside Circle, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a second story and an addition on an existing dwelling. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project solely takes place in an AE flood zone.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Fellow Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, requests for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Brad Chase, Massachusetts Department of Marine Fisheries, Wings Pond, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to repair the channel and weirs used for fish passage between Wings Pond and Buzzards Bay. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I promoted Brad Chase from DMF up to present the state project.
Excellent. Mr.
I
Chase, you're up,
believe
sir.
Mr. Chase has a PowerPoint presentation he would like to share.
All right.
Good evening, folks. Thank you. I'm Brad Chase with the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries. I'm here representing a project to repair a fishway from Wings Pond to Herring Brook in Falmouth. The property is owned by the Handy Cranberry Trust. The project also involves partners, the Town of Falmouth Department of Natural Resources. So I'm looking for the ability to share my screen at this point.
So Brad, at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see,
yeah.
if you bring your mouse down, you'll see the green share.
Yep.
Click on that, and if you're perfect, if you're working with multiple screen, yeah, you got it.
Okay. Sounds good.
We
All
can
right.
see your screen.
Yeah, I'm just trying to turn it into present mode, and that menu option is somewhat obscured by the top menu of the Zoom. So I
Go up
apologize.
to the slideshow.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to the slideshow menu option, and it's obscured by the Zoom menu.
Oh, I can see it in mine.
Yeah, well, if you want, I can go forward outside of the present the presentation mode if you can see it okay.
There's a way you can hide that menu. I think it's on the far right. There might be a button. I think at
Yeah.
the bottom of your screen by the zoom, you can also click on that. There's an icon. I think that'll start your presentation too.
Yeah. Show video panel. No. Yeah, I apologize. I can't seem to.
It's okay, Brad. We can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
All right, let me go forward. So this project to repair a fishway that was constructed by the Division of Marine Fisheries in 1974. So there are 10 fishway weirs in Herring Brook that allow river herring and other species to step up from Herring Brook into Wings Pond. And the work was done quite some years ago. Several of these concrete weirs are degraded and they need servicing. And then others, the water flow has gone around them to erode the banks. So we're proposing to get in there, remove 3 of these weirs that we feel are no longer necessary because the elevation change is quite modest. One of the weirs needs to be reformed. And so we're going to do a concrete weir to reform it. And then there's a number of weirs that need erosional controls in the form of fiber rolls to be installed on the sides of the weirs with backfilling and planting over the weirs. So a fairly simple project. There's only one weir to be reconstructed and the rest will be, well, let me go down the list here. Here's a view of the plan and it's quite minimized. So I think what I'll do is come back to this and first show you this narrative here. So the outlet control from Wings Pond will not be altered. And then moving downstream, the first 3 weirs will not be touched. Weir 4, we're proposing to remove it with associated bank stabilization, erosion control. Weirs 5 through 6, we're not going to touch the concrete weirs, but we are going to repair the banks with fiber rolls. Weir 7 is the one that's in the worst shape. We're going to reform that weir and we're going to increase the length and then stabilize the bank with fiber rolls. Weir number 8, we propose to remove it and add weir stones to assist stepping fish up into the next section. Weir 7 has substantial bank erosion. This is a site where the town was interested in having a walkway going over the creek. The property owner did not favor this. So this notice of intent does not include a walkway. It simply proposes to repair the bank erosion around weir number 9. Weir 10, it's a tidal weir. It's not necessary anymore. We propose to remove it, add weir stones. I will say this one weir is quite a reach for our excavator. And if we find that we cannot remove it, we may not remove it. But it may do more damage to the bank by getting into the waterway as opposed to reaching out and removing the weir. So we would like to remove this weir. It's no longer necessary, but it's a situation where if we can't reach it correctly, we may just not remove it. So again, 3 weirs we're proposing to remove, 1 weir to reform with concrete, and the rest to have bank erosion where necessary. So let me go back. Yeah, this doesn't help us too much. This is the plans by GZA Environmental. It shows the weirs, but at the same time, it's pretty small print. I think I'll go forward. Here's an outline showing the general condition of the weirs where you have the flow coming down. You can see the concrete weirs. In several cases, flow has eroded around the weir, and that's what we want to repair. This next slide shows some of the repairs we're proposing, and most of these come in the form of fiber rolls on the bank with some backfill. We'll use some toe stones. The plans call for 6-inch toe stones to help support that filling, that area. And in cases where we propose to put some stones in the stream to step up where the weirs were, The plans call for 8 to 16 inch toe stones. I don't see us needing to get near 16 inches for this flow. I think stones are going to be probably more 6, 8, 10 inches at a couple locations. And to help drive the discussion here, some photographs that show where we're going to do some work. Where 3 is an example of a weir that will not be changed. Weir 4 is one where we just propose to remove it. You can see substantial erosion from the far bank. We're going to fix that, repair that with fiber rolls, but there's no reason to have this weir. I think back in 1974, perhaps too many weirs were put in, and more than necessary to step up this modest elevation change. So we're going to remove weir 4. And then 5 and 6, no change to the weir, just erosion control. Looking downstream at weirs 7 through 9. 7 is the problem weir that we're going to reform. You can see a large amount of bank that water has gone around. And so we're going to reform this one, extend it. And then weir 8 is proposed to be removed. Weir 9 has some stabilization that will happen. Here's another view of weir 9. This is a location where some of the staff with the Department of Natural Resources favored having a walk bridge to help reduce, people walking along here and causing further erosion. But it was not favored by the property owner, Andy Cranberry Trust, and so this project does not include a walk bridge. And then weir 10, you can see when the tide is up, it serves really no purpose. So we'd really like to remove this weir and put in some stones that might help pass the fish above this section as needed. But again, we don't want to do more damage than necessary by trying to rip this thing out. So if we have trouble with our excavator, we may consult with the conservation administrator and leave that weir in place. But it would be nice to remove weirs where they're no longer necessary. And I just have more slides. I just wanted to show our excavator here at a project on the Cape. It's a Kubota mini excavator. And then I wanted to show an example of a weir form. We did this. This photograph was taken yesterday at the Cape Cod Canal. We replaced a weir for the Army Corps of Engineers there. And it's a case of just pumping out around the weir footprint. And then we form the weir with wood. We pour the concrete and we just assemble the wood form 2 days later. So that's an example of what we propose to do for weir number 7. And my last slide just shows a project we did in Chatham last year, working with the town of Chatham. Very similar project, just smaller in scope. Here we had a couple weirs that were the flow was going around them. And so we reformed 2 of them. Otherwise, we used fiber rolls to stabilize the bank. And we planted native grass seed and then a few blueberries and a few other wetland shrubs around there. So that was a very similar project that we did, just I'd say smaller in scope. I'd be happy to entertain any questions at this point.
All right.
Want me to stop sharing?
Yes, please. All right. Jen.
Thank you, Brad. Quick question. We don't have a DEP number for you and we don't even see it listed. We just realized that while you were talking, we don't see it listed with DEP. Did you submit a copy to the DEP?
Let's see. We submitted a copy to MIPA and oh geez, I may have overlooked. I'm supposed to send a full copy to the Southeast region, correct?
Correct.
Oh boy, I had a big checklist. I think I overlooked that. Okay,
It's okay.
so you
We'll
got
continue you.
okay.
And if you could pop that in the mail to Ciro tomorrow, I will contact the person that reviews Falmouth projects and let her know that it's coming and that I need a DEP number quickly.
Okay. Geez.
When did you want to start this project, Rod?
We were hoping for say mid-October. We're still pending Army Corps review. Okay. And we just received Mass Historic approval. And so that's kind of our timeline.
Okay.
You'll have to reschedule this down the road, I imagine.
Yeah, we'll have to continue it. You can get it in the mail. Let's continue it to the 25th of September, and then that'll give it a chance to get over to, because you're not going to be able to get it to them and have them receive it and process it by the 18th. So
Yeah.
why don't we continue it to the 25th? And that
Yeah.
will be for a DEP number only. And I'll make
Yeah.
sure that the analyst, like I said, the analyst that reviews Falmouth project is looking for this for you.
I may have staff drop it off tomorrow, the next
Okay.
day. Just I feel awful that I forgot this. So
No, no worries.
yeah.
No worries.
Okay.
There won't be any reason, unless the board has some changes they want to see.
Mhm.
But that, other than that, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any questions, about this. I walked the site with Brad. We discussed what needed to be done, and I don't have any comments.
All right. Alyssa,
Just a note to Brad, you won't need to join us again on the 25th. We'll just open up the hearing simply to close it again.
Okay.
So I think what Jen was saying, unless the board has any questions where they want some sort of revision to the plan, you won't need to rejoin us on the 25th.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
all right, commissioner comments. Betsy,
Hey, Brad, glad to see you doing this project.
Mhm.
Nice to repair another herring run. Do you have any idea of what the size of the run is there? I mean, it's a big
So-
pond.
Yeah, it's a good sized pond, and I'm in touch with Department of Natural Resource staff, Chuck and Chris. I feel it's one of the larger runs outside of Method in Falmouth, and so they feel that it's a viable run. They do feel that the water depth is getting shallow because of this erosion and the weir's
Yeah.
not functioning correctly, and so they feel there is some mortality. There are some fish that get stranded or don't make it up. So it's probably one of those Cape runs that has tens of thousands of fish presently and could be higher and used to be higher. So we do feel it's a good project to take care of and just try to make sure their passageway from the tide up to the pond is quicker and safer than it is now.
Well, thanks for thinking of us and improving the habitat here.
Good to see you again.
That's
All
all,
right.
Jamie.
all right, Courtney,
I'll second Betsy's comments. Good project. Thank you.
excellent. Kevin,
Same comment.
all right, Maury,
Ditto.
Steve,
I'm not allowed to comment on government projects.
all right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat regarding this project, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Betsy,
No,
we can't
no,
close
no,
it. We
no.
gotta
You're
continue
gonna
it
continue
till
it.
the 25th.
I'll make a motion at the request of the applicant to continue this to the 25th.
25th
Yes.
for a DP number.
Right.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this until 9:25 for the purposes of obtaining a DEP number. Last call, questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Fellow Hawks Eye.
Steve,
And
it is unanimous. We have continued this until 9:25. Thank you, Brad.
All right. Thank you all.
Brad.
Have a good night.
Right.
All right. Next up, Denise Jarvinen and Pierre Cremo, 122 Gardner Road, Woods Hole, Mass, for permission to conduct invasive species management and restoration. Jen,
I'm promoting Teresa Sprague from Blue Sox Design up to present her project.
all right. Teresa,
Teresa.
welcome.
Is there
You're
anybody
up.
else I'm promoting up, Teresa?
No, just me
Okay.
this evening. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design here on behalf of Pierre Cremu and Denise Jarvinen. We're proposing with this project to continue invasive species management at 122 Gardner Road. If I may share my screen.
Yes, yes, please.
Okay. Many of the commissioners, I believe, who were on this commission back in 2016, we submitted a proposal for invasive species management and restoration planting within the coastal bank land subject to coastal storm flowage and the associated buffer zones to the coastal bank resource areas at 122 Gardner Road. We subsequently managed the invasive vegetation. We had a very successful invasive species management project, completed the restoration planting. You can see from our plan here that at the time we were managing Japanese knotweed, Asiatic bittersweet, porcelain berry shrub, honeysuckle vine, honeysuckle, English ivy, multiflora rose, Norway maple, and black swallowwort. We undertook the invasive species management, was started in 2016. We continued with follow-up invasive species, selective follow-up invasive species management for Japanese knotweed through 2022. We did have an issue with the invasive Japanese knotweed. You can see in this picture here on the lower right-hand corner of the screen. This is a photo of the bank after we restored it, and this was taken in July 2021. And you can see in the upper right-hand corner, there's an extensive area of Japanese knotweed that was located at that time just off of this property. So we did have continued issue with the Japanese knotweed continuing to reinfest the area. I'm going to continue to show you some photos. Again, some photos of the bank restoration in July 2021 when we had native grasses, shrubs, wildflowers thriving on the coastal bank. Fast forward to August 2023. Again, we had a significant restoration success with native shrubs, grasses, wildflowers on the coastal bank. On the lower left hand, you can see photographs. This was taken in 2023. On the left-hand side of the pathway to the beach is the area that was restored, and on the right-hand side of the path is the area of Japanese knotweed that was located just off property that we were not able to manage at that time. Again, this is on the western slope in 2023. This is all, you can see the restored trees as well as beach plum along the top of the coastal bank in that area. And then along the pathway from the association pathway down to the beach, this is in October 2023. This was the restored area along that pathway. We had Clethra alnifolia, Viburnum dentatum, Nissus sylvatica, Aronia arbustifolia, all thriving in that area. Down on this, on the lower left here, this is a photo of the coastal bank taken in July 2024. And we can see that the Japanese knotweed still located on the just off property on the lower right-hand side has really reinfested, and it really blew up. And there was very few signs of Japanese knotweed when I was there in October 2023 when the photo above was taken. And then in July, and when I went back and looked at this property in May 2024, just doing a regular yearly assessment. And then again in July 2024, saw this significant amount of Japanese knotweed that moved into this area. So what we're proposing to do is we're refiling a notice of intent. We'd like to get control of that Japanese knotweed. We do feel that we did submit an administrative review to cut the knotweed back a little bit earlier. After looking at the knotweed and considering the dry situation that we currently have, we decided not to cut that knotweed back because we'd like to have as much area to treat it with the Commission's approval this season as possible. So we did not go forward with the, even though the admin review was approved, we did not go forward with cutting the knotweed back earlier in August. And so because we'd like to have that area to treat with the systemic herbicide in early fall when the treatment is most effective. In 2025 then, and for the next 3 growing seasons, we'd like to continue the regular cutting of the knotweed, which would occur throughout the management area, starting in May, again, to weaken the plant, making targeted herbicide treatments more precise. We do suspect that because the grass, shrubs, tree species were well established prior to this recent reinfestation, we expect the restored plant community to be healthy and intact. We don't think the knotweed has been reestablished long enough to shade out or damage the established native vegetation. However, if we do see any areas that show signs of native vegetation degradation due to this reinfestation, we will assess those areas and we'll replant those as necessary, and we'll work with staff to make sure that we're replanting the areas per the original plan. In addition, we will provide a follow-up tree inventory of all restored trees on the site. So we will complete that, submit that to the Conservation Commission. That was at staff request. There is a little bit of other invasive vegetation we've noticed on site, including porcelain berry and some Asiatic bittersweet. We would just like to have the opportunity to manage that to prevent those species from becoming reestablished. And the idea here is that as I think Alyssa alluded to with the RDA application, is there is a land swap happening, and the commute gardens will be have the opportunity to manage that knotweed that's just off property, which I think will significantly help the long-term success of this project. Once that land swap is completed, we would be coming back to the commission to amend this order of conditions to include that area. But right now that area is technically not part of this property. But that's the goal. And so the purpose of refiling a notice of intent application. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We've included just a little bit of information about the different species that we're currently noting on site, but it's generally the Japanese knotweed that is the biggest threat to the restored native vegetation on the site. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Teresa. You can stop sharing. Jen.
I think the only comment the staff had, we met on site with Teresa. So we're comfortable with the restoration work. The last order of conditions required a kayak rack to be built because there's kayaks currently being stored in the buffer. Those kayaks, that rack was not constructed, and there are boats still being stored in the vegetated area. So we would recommend that something be done, a rack be constructed, or something be done to keep those boats out of that vegetated buffer.
So the rack actually was constructed, and I did get confirmation and shared photos with Alyssa yesterday. I spoke to the homeowners. I think when the certificate of compliance request was made, they saw the list of concerns and that the kayak rack hadn't been constructed. And so it is constructed, and I did send the photos of that to Alyssa yesterday with the boats on the kayak rack.
Perfect.
So they're no longer
Thank
being
you very
stored.
much.
You're welcome.
That's all I have.
All
I'm
right.
trying to catch up with my email to Teresa, so.
It's okay.
Being out
I
on
just sent it late
vacation,
yesterday
I had
afternoon.
going hundreds and hundreds of emails.
I totally understand.
Just do what
That's
you
all
do
I
with
have, Mr.
mine.
Chairman.
Discard them. Never mind. Alyssa.
No comments. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Courtney.
No comment.
All right. Good project. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Kevin.
Same comment.
Maury.
Same comment. It's a tough battle with that stuff.
Yeah.
That is. Steve.
Yes, thank you. Good luck.
Betsy.
Your pictures of the blooming of the Japanese knotweed in that new area is what gives me nightmares in dealing with any conservation project in town. So,
Thanks.
but stick with it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat function, Mr. Chairman.
Now can I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement?
Yes.
Bird, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Have a good
Teresa. Good
evening.
night.
Thanks.
Aye.
Bye.
All right, next up, Paul Cummings, 134 Edgewater Drive East, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, the existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling with a deck and attached garage, and upgrade the existing sewage disposal system. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Mark Dibb from Cape and Islands Engineering to promote his project. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, everybody. Again, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
yes, sir.
Okay. Tonight we filed a notice of intent application for a proposed project at 134 Edgewater Drive East in Falmouth for Paul T. Cummings. The project consists of raising the existing dwelling and proposing to replace it with a new dwelling and a new Title V septic system. The existing property, as I said, is in this view over here, has an existing dwelling, has Child's River to the east. Resource areas have land under the ocean, land containing shellfish. There's a small area of salt marsh, coastal bank, and then your associated A zone, which is most of the property. B zone would be out in Edgewater Drive. There is also an AE13 flood zone associated with the project. Again, the project is just to raise the existing dwelling, proposed a new dwelling, essentially in the same footprint. Some minor changes. There's a little extra driveway being removed. Some other areas, hardscape, resulting in an actual reduction of hardscape of about 130 square feet. Therefore, triggering no mitigation for this project. I'd like to just at this point just go into some of the staff comments and go through those and then open it up to any questions. There were a couple minor typo type comments. We had some proposed drive wells in our existing conditions plan. Those have been removed. They've asked us to dimension the property to the salt marsh, and I am actually going to go to an additional plan that, as a result of receiving the comments yesterday, we did put this together. I do understand the commission typically has a week to review plans, so if we have to continue for you to adequately review these changes, but I'm going to just talk about them now to get any feedback if possible on those changes. On the staff report, there was a reference to an order of conditions from 1989 that had a condition or just a part of the design that stated that the natural buffer was to be restored to 12 feet, or I'm sorry, 14 feet from the back edge of the dwelling. So approximately in here, it was supposed to be restored. So anything beyond 14 feet was supposed to be naturalized for the property. My client was unaware of that 89 permit, and they did note to me that the existing condition now with this lawn area that kind of goes along the top of the bank, they feel it has been there from about the 90s. They were hoping to propose a slight change from that original 89 determination of 14 feet to restore areas between from the extension of the legal platform is basically 22 feet, kind of in exchange for the reduction in hardscape that we've shown on the property. I understand it's up to the commission to make a determination on that, but we would like to propose that kind of as a compromise, and it has historically been that way according to my client for over 30 years. Another comment was the existing license for the pier and the existing approval for the pier had a 20-foot long float. There is currently a 36-foot long float on that pier. The applicant has agreed to replace that as suggested in the condition prior to building permit being issued. So they've agreed to bring that float back into compliance. As well, the last main comment was there's some area right at this corner of the house. Excuse me while I adjust here. These two trees will most likely have to be removed. I believe they're two yew trees over in some very vine infested area. We'd like to propose anything in that area will be restored with some native shrubs, as well as we're proposing 2 trees to replace those 2 trees. So again, obviously if the commission needs time to review these 2 extra changes that were recently submitted, we understand that and would request a continuance, but at this point I'd like to open up to the commission if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the staff. The staff recommends that the buffer be planted in accordance with that original order. And thank you, Mark, for talking to your client about the float and letting them know that, we will not sign off on that building permit until that float is brought into compliance. And that's all I have. I just think that the area should be restored back to the old order. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right, if you would elaborate on that, you're saying you're not recommending accepting his proposal tonight?
Correct.
Okay, you want it restored back? Okay, gotcha. Just making sure I got it.
Yep.
Alyssa.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments, Maury.
No comments at this time, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Steve.
No comments. Thank you.
Okay. Betsy.
I also have no comments.
Courtney.
I don't either.
Wow. All right. I'll come back to me. Kevin.
I changed the beat. No comment. Thank you.
Oh, I'm going to change it. Don't worry. All right. Jen and or Mark, what's the difference between what was originally required versus what they want now? Is it 8 feet? Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was 8 feet, and then it was 8 feet, and then subtract, and the width was about 32 feet minus if they're allowed the 4-foot path. So whatever 8 times 28 feet is
224.
the difference.
All right, but the original requirement was
square feet.
the original requirement was to be 14 feet within 14 feet of the dwelling. Is that the way I understand it? And now they're proposing 22 feet. That's the 8-foot difference I'm talking about.
Correct.
So what you're proposing, Mark, is actually less plantings than what staff would like. Okay, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. Okay. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Alyssa has a comment.
Alyssa,
Just to give a little history, I can't recall if the property was vacant and then a house was constructed in 1989. But basically it was a naturally vegetated buffer that was cut into because of the limit of work. So it was to be restored at that 14 foot. So there was natural vegetation there at some point, and then I think the lawn just gradually expanded. But just for a little backstory.
no, that's helpful. Thank you. All right. Any other commissioner questions or comments? Staff?
I have a question.
Betsy.
Do we require a continuance or just require a plan to be submitted with what is supposed to have been there?
Well, it depends what the board wants. If the board wants to see a revised plan that reflects the original order of conditions, then we should continue it and give Mark the opportunity to talk with his client and present something to you. If you want to close it and condition that, that's fine. We can condition it and not sign off on a building permit until we receive that plan. But the first option is cleaner.
All right, so we'll leave that up to Mark, but I'm going to ask again, is there anything in the public chat function?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, Mark, what are you thinking?
Since the commission did not have comments, does that mean they were supporting Jennifer's recommendation?
Good question.
Or did they not have any
Mark,
comments?
I'm kind of in the dark too.
I think that's surmising a correct view.
Yes.
So it sounds like the commission is in favor of supporting Jennifer's comments. I'm comfortable with closing and submitting a revised plan to reflect that. We were hoping to split the difference or compromise somehow, but if that's the suggestion, we can do that.
So there won't be no building permit until you get the correct plan in.
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure that everybody's clear on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right.
Then I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call. All right. We're voting to close the hearing or not. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks eye.
Steve.
And hi.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. Next up, continued request for a hearing under a notice of intent. First up, Stephen and Susan Moore, 125 Little Neck Bars Road, West Falmouth, Mass. For permission to renovate an existing dwelling, construct an addition, install mitigation and DCPC plantings, and conduct invasive species removal and restoration. And for the record, the quorum is all of us because this had never been opened. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted, who did I just promote up? Tim Santos from Merrill Engineering, sorry about that, Tim, and Maria Hickey from Maria Hickey Associates to present their project.
All right. Mr.
I see
Santos,
Tim
you're
and
up,
I see
sir.
boats.
Good evening. For the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers representing the applicant. Also with me this evening is Maria Hickey. With your permission, I will share my screen and start the presentation.
Yes, sir.
Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So property is located at 125 Little Neck Bars Road in West Falmouth. The resource areas on or within 100 feet of the property are Fresh Pond to the south. There's a salt marsh associated with that, as well as a BVW fringe and coastal bank to the rear of the property. The main resource areas in question or of concern are the isolated wetlands to the west of the property. Property is currently developed with an existing single-family home, decks, landings, a shed, crushed shell driveway, and flagstone walk. Some of you might be familiar with this property because it has come before you, and there was a certificate of compliance issued for that work. We're here tonight proposing an 8x12 addition to I guess that's the northeast part of the house right here, as well as a landing and steps. It's in the outer buffer zone, the FWR Zone B buffer zone. There is an increase in the footprint and the development, so there are mitigation plantings, as well as some DCPC plantings because we are in the DCPC. Also part of this application is the removal of a cedar up in this northeast corner of the property and invasives that have kind of taken over this area and restoration. In the lower part of our plan, we have the redevelopment calcs, the increase in the B, 84 square feet. We're required to plant 168 square feet of mitigation plantings. We're proposing 170. We have the DCPC calcs for the restoration or mitigation requirement for that. 928 are required. We're planting 930. It's split between the north and south of the house as shown above. And we have some invasive removal and restoration notes. The area in question that we're looking to do the removal, approximately 90% invasives made up of bittersweet, honeysuckle, porcelain berry, and Maria can talk more about that. We are proposing, we have a shrub list for both the mitigation and DCPC planting on the plan with the species, size, and spacing. So I will kind of turn it over to Maria. She can answer any questions for you, or she can run through any of these areas. We did meet with staff out on site to review the staff report to address some of their concerns with the plantings in the back. We originally had all of our DCPC plantings back here, and we've kind of split it between the south and the north now. So all of the plantings are either in landscape beds or in lawn areas. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Maria, and then we'll answer any questions.
Thanks, Tim.
Good evening. Trying to fix here we go. Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. For the record, Maria Hickey and Associates Landscapes. As Tim mentioned, we're involved in a project a few years ago, which we did receive a certificate of compliance for on this project. This would be similar in plantings to offer the same continuity as we currently have on the property. On the area that has a cedar tree, there's trailing infestations of non-native invasive vines that are completely blanketing the tree, which we do want to remove and then restore that area. There's one correction I need to make on my plant list. I should have written Hypericum densiflorium as one of my native shrubs, along with Myrica, Ilex verticillata, and Viburnum dentatum. It's an even mix of those shrubs to be planted within the area shown on the site plan, which will satisfy the requirements for our DCPC plantings and our mitigation to offset the increased square footage for the addition on the house. I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
All right. Jen,
Yes, what percentage of Hyperion will you be using, and the plan needs to be revised to reflect that?
Probably 20 to 30%. Closer to the 20%, only because it likes the sun, and the area on the back will be more viburnum. And it's going as the furthest or the closest point to the lawn area, to better blend with those plants. And so we'll have graduated heights. It'll be the Hypericum, Mirica, verticillata, viburnum.
And you're gonna put those along that big row of hydrangeas you have out there along the road?
Those hydrangeas are coming forward into the lawn.
Those hydrangeas are huge, so you're gonna
I know.
have the Hypericum doesn't get nearly that big. You're planting it on a
Yeah, so I'm
4 to
rearranging.
5 feet on center. Where did that come from?
That's the viburnum, is 4 to 5 feet on center because they need that space.
So my question is, where are the DCPC? So the DCPC plantings are in the back
Correct.
under all those trees.
They're going
Okay.
along the lawn area.
Okay. So you're putting the bigger viburnums along that lawn area?
I'm going to put winterberry and viburnum. It's not a lot of square footage back there. The viburnum thrives in a shady area.
And so the little Hypericums are going to go
Out front in the sunny area. Just one
between
little space.
between the hydrangeas and the road?
No. So lawn, hydrangeas, Hypericum, Mirica, Ilex verticillata, viburnum. So I'm kind of weaving it all through.
So basically, we're going to those hydrangeas are huge. So then we're
I
going
know.
to go.
I'm going to move them. They're going to be relocated.
Okay. Okay. I do not want to see a monoculture of Hypericum out there, Maria. Okay.
Not planning. Yep.
All right. And Tim, you're gonna have to revise your plan to put the right plant in there, please. Because the
problem.
one listed only grows to about 1.5 feet.
Not a problem. I can get you a plan tomorrow.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And I apologize. That was an error on my part.
Okay. Maria, we did tell you, I think last year, that we would, we'd accept the Hypericum, we'd use it in a couple of different test cases and see how it does, and now they're on every one of your plans. So I'm not quite sure where that translation was lost, but we wanted the ability to see how it did, and you just went off and running with it. So you completely disregarded, what we were trying to do. But that's going to be up to the board. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
all right, Alyssa.
No comments. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really don't have any comments. All right.
Okay.
I think those two are going to work out a beautiful landscape plan.
That's the spirit.
No more than 20%.
All right, Betsy.
So is Hypericum native to Cape Cod?
Yes.
Aren't they supposed to be native?
Yes, it's on the Barnstable County list.
Okay.
And Betsy, I actually showed Alyssa, we did a site visit probably 3 weeks ago on one of those properties that has extremely harsh conditions. It's windy, salt spray, full sun, hot and dry. and the hypericum was thriving. It was 3 times bigger and denser than any other native shrub that we planted in that plan.
Is
But
that
it will-
Willis?
Will it take over other areas? That's another.
No.
I don't know anything about it. I've just read articles about it.
I would love to do a presentation to the board if Jen would allow me that at some point, or I can email you guys pictures of it in properties in Falmouth, the 2 that we are allowed, or if you even better wanted to see it, I'll absolutely get permission from the owners for you to go on the property, and I'd be so happy to show you. I feel
Okay,
like the
but
proud parent.
Yeah, but my concern is some of these look good and they thrive, and then they take over stuff. Just like in the last thing we heard. I mean, Japanese knotweed we know is invasive, but
Yeah.
it's just overnight it can go from I don't see any to it taking over a whole area. And I'm just worried what I've read about hypericum that it could do the same thing.
So Betsy, it forms more of, for lack of a better word, a thicket of branches, which provides great habitat for shelter and food for wildlife, nesting songbirds, but it's not invasive. It doesn't spread, like for example, like bayberry, Rosa virginiana will shoot runners and they keep coming up everywhere. It's not like that at all. It's more of a contained shrub. It's just that the branches grow tall and wide.
Okay, well, I'll talk to Jen and maybe get permission to go to some of the places where you've had it in the past.
That would be fantastic. I would love to show you.
That's all, Jamie.
All right, Courtney.
Yeah, it's the law of unintended consequences. I kind of get where Betsy's coming from on this. And, you want to have a balanced and diverse environment, and you don't want to have a thing, whether it's native or whether it's invasive, that just comes in and takes over, But wait and see. If it becomes a problem, it becomes a problem. No other comments.
All right. Jen, regarding the spacing, we've gone from 3 to 4. Now we're looking at requests for 5.
We can discuss that in deliberations, Mr. Chairman. Let me think about that one.
Okay.
I mean, 3 is tight for viburnums. I'll give her that.
Yeah.
Maria's correct on that. It is a tight spacing for viburnums. They can get pretty big.
Okay.
If left alone, they can get, the one in take my example, my own yard, the one in my last house was taller and much wider than my husband. So, it was big.
Okay.
So
all right. Thank you.
I'm okay with the 4 or 5 foot spacing for the viburnums. The hypericum, the county's suggesting a 3 foot spacing for the hypericum.
Okay. Good to know. All right, Kevin.
I couldn't possibly add anything to that. Thank you.
Give it a shot. All right, Maury.
I just had 2 questions. The access, are you just going across the lawn for the addition or? Okay. And then number 2, the one good thing about hypericum is that it is pretty deer resistant. And out in that area, the deer are just
it's awful.
chewing everything to the ground. So it might be good that'll be a buffer to the other plants, but they might not get so hungry. I don't know, but thank you. That's all.
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat. Maury, why do you think it is so deer resistant?
I don't know, but let me tell you, they really, really love beach plum. They eat it literally to the ground. And even the bayberry out there, they've been eating it to like 2 feet. The clethra, they prune it absolutely beautiful to about 2.5 feet. But they do a really nice job of keeping them maintained. But the beach plum, they actually almost eat to the ground out there now. I won't even plant the beach plum out on Black Beach. And even though there's wild beach plum all over the dunes, for some reason, they don't seem to eat those. They only like the nice, lovely planted ones.
Right.
They're a nice tender.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, close the hearing and take it under
Oh.
advisement.
Hold on.
Oh,
Maria.
I just wanted to add two quick things. On spacing, we always go 3 to 4 feet on 90% of our shrubs. It's just the viburnum has to go 4 to 5 feet. For example, like verticillata, winterberry, clethra, blueberry, you have to have that closer planting 3 to 4 feet because they're not wide shrubs to begin with. When you plant a viburnum, the shrubs are already 3 feet wide. So they're almost touching each other when you plant them 3 feet on center. So I just wanted to add that little extra information. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim, did you have anything to add?
No, I'll update the planting species, and then instead of having like the mitigation plantings with the size and spacing and the DC plantings with the size and spacing, I'll update the spacing accordingly just to make sure that it's only the arrowwood is the 4 feet on center. So
All right. Jen?
Nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Let's see.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call. Questions or comments? All right. We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Hello, Hawk's Eye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, everyone, and have a nice night.
Thanks,
Thank
you
you.
too.
thank you. Have a great night. Have a good weekend.
I was waiting for that.
Well, I will see Jen and Alyssa tomorrow, so I can say it to them tomorrow. So everybody else have a great weekend.
Well, you have a good weekend too, Tim.
Thank you. I
Have
appreciate
a good
that.
weekend, Tim.
Bye.
Go ahead, Jen, go ahead.
Thank you. I've got to make Justin the host. So Justin, how do I make Alyssa the host? Big co-host. Alyssa, I just made you co-host. I need to step away for a moment. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Next up has been previously continued, and the next up been previously continued. Brings us to Lars Bergeron, 33 Martin Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling with a bulkhead, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system, and install mitigation. Alyssa.
Thank you. I have promoted Mark Dibb to present the project.
All right, Mr. Dibb, you're up, sir.
Good afternoon again, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir. Oh, and I'm sorry, let me interrupt you one quick second, Mark. Just for the record, this has not been previously open, so the quorum is all of us tonight. Thank you, Mark. You're up.
Okay, so we filed a notice of intent application for the proposed project at 33 Martin Road in Falmouth for Lars Bergeron. The project consists of a proposed new dwelling to replace an existing dwelling on site, and it'll involve a new septic system to be installed for the new dwelling. Resource areas on site. To the North is Martin Road. To the south is Quashnet River. So there's a small BVW. There's also a flood zone associated with that area. So there is a coastal bank that runs through here, as well as there's a 100-foot and 200-foot riverfront area on the site. And there's a ACEC line, which the ACEC is on the river side of the property. So this side of the property is not within the ACEC. Again, the main proposal is for this house to be built in the B zone, a septic system as well. A new septic system over 110 feet away from the BVW will be installed. And that project, because of the increase in development in the B zone, triggers about 1,800 square feet of mitigation that we're proposing in this area. For the staff report, there were some items identified on the property as unpermitted work that the applicant had installed, not knowing the number of resource areas that were on the property at the time. He had some previous plans from early 2000s that showed the river and showed things being 100 feet away, but we know now with revised flood zone lines that there's coastal banks, there's riverfront area, etc., as well as the Falmouth A zone. One particular thing is there's a two series of retaining walls on the site that were installed. Actually, we don't have the exact years, but in the late 2016, 17, 18, 9 area time frame. What we're proposing to do, they're essentially part of the landscape at this point. We're proposing to restore all the area, definitely in between those, some area over here that historically might have had some sort of cutting or debris placement, landscaping debris placement. We're proposing to restore all that area with native shrubs. There was no fill per se to install these walls. They were installed basically at the grade. They did form a function in the area of this driveway. There was some considerable runoff down this existing gravel driveway that has been there from around the 1960s, as far as we could tell. And the walls and the tiering helped create this driveway that has also had a leaching catch basin added to it, as well as some a concrete surface. It really did actually improve conditions. It reduced washout, but again, obviously that work was done in the A zone without a permit. So we're seeking to both restore areas, as well as there was a plan from 2006 that staff did review that would not have required mitigation at the time, which was basically this road coming in. However, this red area, in my opinion, is a little expansion beyond what that plan showed. So we're also mitigating for that. And the blue area is actually some existing grass or even vegetated area that would have been on that plan in the past. I mean, the main focus, our main submittal was the house and the septic system. However, once we got on site, once we delineated resource areas, we did find these conditions. We went to staff, started talking through it. In the staff report, there were some other more technical questions. Our first submittal did not have the ACEC limit on it. A couple other dimensions we've added. We did expand the riverfront analysis, alternatives analysis. One thing our client does have is economically, he's hoping to be able to remain in the existing dwelling during some of the construction of the new dwelling. So that is between that and zoning setbacks and requirements, a 25-foot front yard setback. You know, the house pretty much fits into one area on the site. I guess that is my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Alyssa.
Thank you. Like Mark said, Jen and I have been working closely with him throughout the duration of this project proposal. We are comfortable with the plan that's currently before the commission. There are several unpermitted features on the site, some of which are being remedied in this proposal and mitigated for and restored. Some, like the transition of driveway to concrete and the creation of those retaining walls. Staff practically thinks that they should remain that way on the site by removing those. It's a very steep slope. It'll just lead to more erosion, water runoff problems to the river down there. So I think them staying on the site is the best way to go forward and keep that site as retained and protected as possible. And we do know that the homeowner would be anxious to get started on the replanting requirement since the fall is coming up. So we have spoken with him and are happy to recommend species and quantities just to help him get off the ground running. So yeah, we're content with what's before you guys right now.
Excellent. Good. Jen, do you want to add anything?
I have nothing to add, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you, Alyssa.
All right. Commissioner comments. We're going to start with me because I want to. Mark, thank you for working with staff. Staff, thank you for working with the engineers. Looks like you guys put a lot of effort into this and get a pretty good plan together for us. So much appreciated. All right, Kevin.
Just like to second the chairman's comments. Thank you.
Excellent. Maury.
And I would like to congratulate you on your comments. Thank you. And the staff did a great job.
Yes, they did. Steve.
Great comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I was looking for raises or something. All right. Betsy.
I couldn't agree with my colleagues more.
Courtney.
Nice job in a tough site.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
All right, Jen. Oh, I'm sorry. Alyssa, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
There is nothing in the public chat and there are no hands raised.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Third, second.
Seems like after all that work, it should be harder to close it. You know, I mean,
No,
Mark,
Jen,
no, close it.
no.
Close it.
Mark, do you want us to ask you more questions?
All
I'm
right.
not even going to answer that question. No.
Smart man. Yeah. All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call, questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carla Hawk's eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Good evening. Have
Thanks,
a nice
Mark. Good night.
Night, Mark. Have a good weekend too, Mark.
night.
Mark.
It's too early for that, isn't it?
No, we're accustomed to hearing that.
Thank you. Good night.
Well, I'm taking that as a directive.
Can I?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Next up, request to extend an existing order of conditions. Charlie Nickerson, estate of Mary A. Nickerson, 89 T-Ticket Path, T-Ticket, Mass. DEP number 25-4556, requesting a 1-year extension. Alyssa.
Staff is recommending the 1-year extension. This project has been extended once before, but it was severely delayed due to the start of COVID and the requirements instituted by the building department for a new plan. So he just has very few minor finishing touch-ups to do.
Good. All right. Questions
So
or comments? Excuse me. Go ahead.
So moved for 1 year extension.
Okay.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to take staff's recommendation and grant a 1-year extension. Last call, questions or comments? All right, we're voting to grant a 1-year extension. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
and Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have granted a 1-year extension. All right, last one. Who wants it?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second, O'Brien.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Carla Hawk's eye.
And Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We are
Midnight
adjourned.
eye.